Hello, I'm Rebecca Horan, and a very warm welcome to A Little Birdie Told Me, a podcast brought to you by rollercoaster.ie. In this season, I will sit down and chat to 16 pretty interesting people to discuss pregnancy, parenting, and everything in between. On this episode, I sit down with fashion stylist Sarah Rickard, owner of Styled by Sarah Rickard, and mother to 2 boys.
This is a very interesting guest I have on today. Someone I have followed and watched from afar, but have never actually been in the same room with, but heard a lot of wonderful things about, and kind of has such a creative job that I suppose, you know, when you head into the world of parenting, it kind of lends itself. Sarah Rickard, previous stylist to stars, but now online boutique owner, and, you know, still a stylist and working away, but also mum of 2 children. Very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here, and I forgot how much I love podcasts.
Do you do a lot of this?
Well, I did a stint co-hosting the podcast for Image called Smart Casual. It was a fashion podcast, so that was really nice to do that, and it was such a great kind of creative outlet and to talk about kind of our backgrounds and our passion, you know, so it was lovely. It was kind of just before COVID.
Just podcasting is such a different entity, isn't it? We always, you know, I was in radio for a long time, but there's something so raw and natural and easygoing about just having a chat like this, and where it'll take you don't know. I think sometimes when you're filmed or it's video, it's just there's a physicality, like you feel like you have to aesthetically be really on your A game, you know.
I think you can just relax
you
into
can relax,
it a bit more.
Yeah. Well, so nice to meet you. Like I said, I follow you with interest, and we can talk about that in a minute, about what your venture is now. Talk to me about your life pre-Babas. What age are your children now, Sarah?
So my eldest is 8, he'll be 9 in July, and my youngest is 6, he'll be 7 next month. So I'm definitely out of the trenches, as I would call it. You know, I always had to remind myself that 0 to 5 really is the trenches. Like, people say it's the first year, but honestly, I felt like it was the first 5 years with the lack of sleep and all the illnesses
and
that
the
go
emotional
with it.
roller coaster ride. Yeah, there's a lot of big feelings in our house, and not just me. But what was your you talked to me about your husband, how you met, and your life, you know, before it kind of changed, and it does change forever, you know.
Unbelievably. So I've worked in the Irish fashion industry for 2 decades. I started out as a fashion stylist just after I left UCD. I started assisting other stylists, and then I landed a role as the chief stylist for Irish Tatler. So that was part of the Harmonia group at the time, and they did several publications. So they had Irish Tatler was their kind of high fashion, and then they had You Magazine and Woman's Way. So I ended up kind of overseeing the 3 magazines and doing all the fashion content.
What age were you doing that role?
I would have been early 20s. I think I actually got it when it was mid-20s. I was 25. Yeah.
It's a big gig.
It was brilliant. And I didn't realise how lucky I was at the time. You know, it was just like, you know, when you're young and I suppose ballsy, and you're just like, yeah, of course, you know, like, of course I can do it. So I absolutely loved it. And like that, I would be going over to London Fashion Week and doing all kind of the editorials and then the celebrity shoots for the covers. So I got to meet so many people and so many connections and contacts, and I was in town every single day. You know, I knew the first names of everyone that worked in Brown Thomas.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All the boutique owners would know me, and it was just really nice. I felt like I belonged, you know, which is really lovely, especially kind of so young. So that was really, really interesting and fab. And I could still do freelance gigs. So I was still doing I was doing fashion production and shows for the likes of Harvey Nicks, and I was assisting on the Brown Thomas shows all around the country. It was brilliant. The industry was buzzing at that time. We're talking, you know, the noughties and then obviously the 2010s, early 2010s. So it was a really good time.
Stressful?
To be in the fashion industry. It was, of course, stressful, but I kind of felt like I could manage it.
Yeah.
Like, I say that now looking back, I'm sure I was an absolute wreck because I've always been an anxious wreck. But
you didn't have the other things when you came home to then be responsible for. Yeah,
it was just me.
It was you
know. I met my husband in 2008. And yeah,
Same as me.
Really, that's interesting. We got together and kind of things moved quite quickly. We moved in together 5-6 months after meeting.
Wow, special. That's really.
It was lovely. It just felt right.
Is he in a different world?
Yes, he's in kind of tech. So he's got the sensible job.
Okay.
And I suppose he would credit himself as having tamed the wild woman, you know. He's very straight and very, you know, like he's just a real man, a real doer and productive. And like I would be working long nights, and every time we went to go on holidays, I'd get a job and I'd have to move it out, you know, and he'd be like, you should just be working 9 to 5. You should, you know, he was constantly that voice
Practical
in my ear saying, this isn't right. You know, and I'm like, well, this is the gig.
This is the life. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 2011, I moved kind of away from Irish Tatler, and I started my own personal shopping service, and the girls in costume were just so amazing. They let me use the upstairs, which was their bridal suite. So I had a little studio space in town, but I was also still doing all my freelance work and still doing the show production and everything. So I was really busy, and I spread myself too thinly, I suppose. I couldn't really give as much as I needed to the personal shopping side of things. And I knew there was a business in it, but I couldn't figure out how to get it right, you know? So then at the end of 2011, I was at a press show for Primark for pennies, and I got talking to one of the directors, and she asked if I'd be interested in coming on board in a buying capacity. And we were at a stage, we were engaged, we were just about to get married, and so it was 2012, and we were trying to get a mortgage, and all, you know, real life was happening. So I met with her a couple of times, and I had actually studied. I had always been interested in buying. I'd done buying, merchandising and design after college, and it had always been something on my mind. So I just thought, okay, if not now, then when? So I joined the buying team of Primark in 2012, which was a shock to the system, to say the least, but it was brilliant. It was
Brilliant,
so full on.
but intense, full on,
The
demanding.
corporate world.
Yeah, it's a very different.
Going from my
Running your own show.
freelance,
Yeah.
like I could turn down jobs if I wanted,
Yeah.
you know, if I felt I was too stretched. Not that I ever did. I said yes to absolutely everything. That's the other side of being a stylist in Ireland. You have to say yes to everything. I could be doing a little campaign one day and a high fashion editorial the next, you know. There was no, and you're, as a stylist, you're doing all the logistics, you're doing all the production, you're doing
And
all
the
the
pulling of
casting,
the-
like that's like a minimal side to, or you're looking at 2 weeks, there isn't the money in it, you know. That's the main part. And then when you go for something like a mortgage, they're like,
What is this? Yeah.
what? Like,
What is this pocket money?
Exactly. So when I joined Pennies, it was brilliant. I loved the girls I worked with, but I joined at a very controversial time for the business. It was just when the Rana Plaza collapsed. So there was a lot of internal issues, and in fairness to them, they did deal with it well, and they were the first to kind of hold themselves accountable as having a factory in the building. And it was really devastating, and I remember feeling really sick about the whole thing. It just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
No. And I was never a fast fashion person anyway, so I wasn't actually the Pennies customer, and I think that's kind of important if you work for them.
Did you, I hate to say sell your soul, but do you feel you kind of conformed a little for you and your partner for your future and just to kind of have stability?
Totally.
Okay.
Yes.
So you thought it's a great gig and it's a big
Absolutely.
brand. Everyone
Yeah.
wants the gig, but it's not necessarily me.
No,
but
not
that's
at all.
okay.
But I was kind of brought in under the guise that I could do more creative.
Okay.
Like they were talking about having an in-house studio to do shoots and
Amazing,
you
yeah.
know, so I was brought in, but when it came down to it, I had to get my work done
Yeah, of
first,
course you
and
did,
everything else came as an extra, you know, which I never had time to do. So I got on with it. I was there for 20 months. I left when I had my first boy, Ollie. So that was in 2014. I left in June 2014.
How was that leaving it? Did you feel like a failure? Did you feel it was the best decision you've ever made?
No, so I left on maternity leave.
Okay.
I fully intended going back.
Okay.
Fully intended going back because it was, I'll tell you, it was a massive thing to step away from styling. Like I had built up a name and a reputation for myself. I would have been very well known. And then I just kind of turned it on its
off,
head.
yes.
And just was like, oh, now I'm in a corporate buying job. Everyone was just like, what? Why would you give up what you know, I was seen as a success. But inside I was crumbling. You know, I was I knew the industry was changing. I wasn't willing to put myself in front of a camera. You know, I was constantly being asked to do things like expose and everything. And I had such a phobia about the whole TV thing. And I couldn't see how I could keep progressing doing what I was doing. I knew I had to pivot in some way. So I left fully intending to come back. And then my husband was working in Edinburgh 4 days a week. We moved from Dublin to Ratoath and I had a new baby. I had a 6-month-old and I was due to go back and I just I couldn't physically make it happen.
You're so I think it's just such a female, like it's what we do. You're so cash about like, and then I had the baby Ollie. That pregnancy and the having of Ollie and all that, was that a game changer? How did you find it? Did you cope well with that? Were you very naturally maternal? Did you enjoy those baby days at home snuggling, or did you find it really challenging? Like, how was all of that for someone who was probably similar to kind of my career background, where it's buzzy, it's media, you're in demand, you work late nights, early mornings, you're just living by the seat of your pants, but it's exciting all the time. Was it really hard?
Yes, but my first was nothing compared to my second. You know, my first, there was a novelty. I don't mean novelty, but I just immersed myself in it. You know, yes, every part of it was hard. The labor was a nightmare. The breastfeeding was a nightmare. Obviously the sleepless nights. But he was a good baby. I realise now after having another one. And I suppose just because I'd moved to Ratoath, I was in my lovely new house. I really enjoyed that time. And I suppose I was institutionalized, really.
Yeah.
And I just went with it. Okay. So I wasn't really hit. It's interesting because I've always suffered with anxiety, like generalized anxiety disorder from being a child. But I think I needed the break from the industry. And
it's funny because maternity leave and having Baba is not a break.
Far from a break, but
it was a break from that.
It was nice to see another side.
Totally.
It was nice to see. And I remember bringing Ollie in to the girls in Penny's and just being like, well, it's easier than this. And that was the truth. I felt I was
that's
more,
a pretty huge moment.
I was more in my comfort zone being at home with my baby and then being in that job. So I was all geared up and I was looking at childcare and then I just broke. You know, I was obviously working in my head, trying to convince myself the whole time, I have to do this. This is and giving myself no choice. And then I was like, I cannot physically drop my baby into a creche at 7 a.m, work with girls 10 years younger who are able to fly off to Bangladesh at the drop of a hat, who have no responsibilities, collect my kid at 7 who's going to be sick for the next 6 days, you know, while my husband's in another country. It was just like, this does not make sense. This is an impossible task. So I pushed out my leave as long as I could, and I was due back in, I think it must have been the June, like a year later, and I found out I was pregnant on my second.
Wow.
And that was just...
So had you kind of made a decision by that year, I may not go back?
Yeah.
So you kind of had worked it out in your head, and you worked out the financials and the logistics. And had you then decided I'm going to work within the home, the stay-at-home mom thing as well, I'm going to work within the home and figure something else out?
I remember my brother-in-law saying to me, oh, happy retirement. I was like... No, I don't think it's that, but I suppose I was, in a way, I was leaving Penny, so I was leaving that job or whatever, but yeah, there was not a second where I thought that was it for my career. I knew I had styling to go back to, but I did not know the pressure I would put myself under to get back into it.
So you're pregnant?
Okay, so I'm pregnant. No.
A private question, of course, but like, was it something you were like, we will eventually have a second or third child, or was it kind of happened and it was a free flow and that's fine?
We had a conversation on the 26th of June. Will we have another? Maybe. The next day I said, I don't want another. Okay. And 2 weeks later, yes.
Wow.
And 2 weeks later I found out I was pregnant.
That's intense. That is a very short, I mean, I feel like, you know, I had children and I didn't, but that is a very short gap. And very tricky because that 1 to 2 year with that age is very hard.
It was like being in like whenever you felt you were just figuring something out, the rug would be pulled. Like I felt I was just figuring out what Ollie,
Needed
at
yeah.
that age. And I had just gotten maybe 3 nights out of the 365 nights sleep.
Yeah.
And then I swear to God, I nearly passed out. Like, I was like,
shock.
And I sound so awful because, of course, I know how privileged I am and how grateful I am for my kids.
No, it's
but
not
in
awful.
that
It's real.
moment,
Yeah.
I just thought, oh,
What am I going to do?
What am I going to do? I was just figuring things out in my head. I'd started doing a little bit of blogging. I had done what I was dipping my toenail, I would say, back into the styling industry because I was very reluctant to. But I did a couple of commercial jobs, so just kind of to see and getting a little bit of money in or whatever.
Was your husband thrilled?
My husband was really happy.
Okay.
Yeah, because he just thought, well, we have all the stuff and we're in it, so...
It's not going to change his life completely.
No,
like,
I
you know
suppose,
what I mean?
but it absolutely did.
Okay, that's interesting.
It 100%
and I mean
did.
that in the nicest possible way. We know how pivotal fathers being present in a children's lives and how incredible our dads are nowadays. What the generational change, which has been so important. But it still doesn't turn their body and their jobs and their lives. Like stepping out even for maternity leave for me was game changing because you're out of an industry for a year and it's hard. So you're pregnant. How is the pregnancy?
Terrible.
Okay.
I actually thought I was pregnant before I even did the test because I had back pain already. I had the pubic, whatever that's called, the pelvic
bone?
yeah. My hips kind of split. Symphysis, I can't remember. See this I was so in it at the time, obviously, and now with a few years, I can't even remember the names of everything. But it's like, yeah, it's something to do with your pubic bone and
your
something to do with
symphysis, like where the
just
it
across your
breaks.
pelvis,
Yes.
yeah, and
so whatever way the baby was being carried, it was leaning.
It was just bananas. It just from the get go, this boy was
broke you.
Yeah, he was something else. He was something different. And then I suppose when you're pregnant on your first, you can really take time out for yourself.
Stop.
It's all like, I'm going to go for a nap.
Can you scratch my back and do my feet? I'm going to go meet my friends for lunch. Oh yeah, the second is just like a joke.
Yeah. And there I am running after an incredibly active 1-year-old who's like constantly just at me to do stuff. He wants to be in my arms the whole time. My back is literally breaking. My coccyx, everything was just totally out of whack because I wasn't fit. And I wasn't
because
planning
you just
on,
had a baby.
Yeah, exactly. True. But isn't that interesting? Yeah. So I'm like,
just had a baby.
I
Takes
had
a
no
long
core
time.
kind of, strength or anything. So the pregnancy was really difficult. I got prenatal depression and
wow. We don't talk about this one enough. It's always the postnatal or the postpartum anxiety, but the prenatal is an absolute thing.
Yes. As I said, I've always suffered with anxiety and I have been on medication for it. I went down to like the lowest when I was pregnant with Ollie. And it was safe to take for the pregnancy. And then I stopped taking it for a while because I felt comfortable. Yeah. And then it came back with a bang when I was pregnant with Harry, with a bang. I just felt hopeless. I lost so much weight. I think I was only 7 stone when I was 6 months pregnant. Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah. Like there's very few
Were the doctors
photos
concerned?
Like the doctors.
Is your
if you
husband
don't
concerned?
Yeah, of course. And
wow, 7 stone, 6 months pregnant is dangerous.
Yeah. I just thought...
You couldn't eat, you were...
No, I was having... All I could eat was 1 banana sandwich a day. I remember, like, that's the only thing. And I'd have to force myself. I'd be gagging the whole way through it. I was just...
Was it an actual physical, like, illness, you think? Or it was pure anxiety?
It was pure anxiety that manifested then physically because I let it go so long. And I kept saying, I can cope. And then it fell into, I can't cope. I'd wake up every morning saying, I can't cope. I can't do this. And I was so worried about Harry. And I was so worried about the pregnancy. And we didn't have the money. I felt everything was a burden. I didn't want to bug my husband to say, can we get like a reassurance scan? Or can we, because...
Everything's extra. You've been out of work for a year.
Exactly. So I didn't want to add on. He had just started a new job. It was in consultancy. They were old school. He had to be there every day. He had to wear a suit. I'd be lying on the couch, not able to move, with Ollie crawling all over me, going, please, you have to stay home. You can't leave me. And he would just be like, I can't, like, I'm going to lose my
Where
job.
do you think the anxiety, like, why do you think your head was so in the toilet? Like, was it the fear of bringing these 2 small children up and what was ahead for them? And could you cope? Was it the fear of losing yourself? Or was it just something you can't really, there's no explanation for it?
I think it was both, really. I think I probably was... I had convinced myself that I was so fine with Ollie when I really wasn't.
Okay.
And it's amazing what your mind can do. And, you know, I could have pushed through that and I would have been fine. But then adding the pregnancy on top of that, it was too much. I just completely cracked. You know, I wasn't being honest with how hard I was finding it because, you know, a few of my friends had babies at the same time and they were doing amazing.
Oh, everyone's doing amazing.
Yeah. But I remember, but
You
they
know.
were so good. Like I remember even saying it once to one of them, and she turned around to me and she said, "If you think they're doing amazing, they're lying. If they tell you they're doing amazing, they're lying.
Nobody,
like no one has
not
it
even
sussed."
people who never struggle with their mental health are doing amazing. It is hardcore having children with all their needs and difficulties and your needs and difficulties, and you combine that and it is a shit show. So, you know, I do struggle a lot with the Instagram perfect. Like I have wonderfully Instagram perfection moments, you know what I mean, like beautiful moments with my children, and I want to eat them. But most of the time, like anything in life, you're dealing with a lot of grey and a lot of haze. And it's like work or families, nothing is perfect.
Absolutely.
And I do struggle with that. And I think that we have to change the dial there because I think for women who feel A, fertility is basically them, that's what your sole purpose is. And then B, you better be maternal, but you also better be career driven. But you also, it's very stressful. And I think it's interesting. My second pregnancy was a real challenge. I remember being in the bath and my 3-year-old, you know, she wasn't big, but she was still crawling into the bath on top of me at 3 to lie on me. And I had an 8-month bump and screaming for my husband to come up and help me. And he was like, you know, watching something. And I do remember that bottom of the barrel feeling of like, I don't think I'm coping. I was like, can you take her out of the bath? She's going to damage the baby. I can't get out of the bath. And he was like, yeah, I'm coming, relax. But it was just, I panicked. So you go towards labour, and is the anxiety worsening?
So I went into the rotunda when I was I ended up going into like an A&E or in the Beacon, like the cardiac, because I was having really bad palpitations. I have hyperthyroidism, I have Graves' disease, so there's a lot going on. So I had to get my heart checked because I was having palpitations, and they were worried, you know, because I was 28 weeks pregnant at the time. Everything was fine. They did an ECG and everything, but it was just, that was kind of, I want to say that was rock bottom, but it probably wasn't, because then that went on for 2 weeks, and then I ended up going into the rotunda, and I met with the psychiatric nurse, and she was like, "You've still got 10 weeks to go. That's too long. We need to get you on something." So I went to see the psychiatrist there, and he put me back on medication. And I remember him saying to me, you know, like 1 in 100 women take this during pregnancy, you know, like, so what does that tell you? And I was like, that it's hormonal. And he was like, no, that it's safe. Like, but it has to, like, the hormones were just going absolutely nuts. And so then I started taking it, and I wasn't well at all. Like I felt so guilty. I was waking up every morning and like throwing up, you know. I put myself under so much pressure, because I was like, why can't I do this? Everyone else can do this. Why do I have to take something, you know? Why can't I just be an amazing mum? And so I had all of that. So then Harry arrived, and the labour was actually lovely compared to the first. It was very calm, and he is just the most beautiful kid, and everything was brilliant. Like, obviously, again, the breastfeeding was a nightmare, and you know, the nipples were raw and bleeding and everything. Sorry, Barry.
Yeah, we've got our editor and videographer listening to these stories, and I think he's learned so much about having babies. It'll either put him off or he'll embrace all of it one day. But yeah, no,
he'll be well educated.
The kind of falsity that like you stick a baby on your boob and it's this natural moment is just horseshit, because
so far
you've cracked
from
nipples, sore
the
nipples,
truth.
bleeding nipples. You're in so much. I used to be in so much pain. I'd my legs, Jason said I used to stretch my feet out just to curl because I was so sore.
Yes, well, that
every
was kind
part
of, you're
of
so
me-
tense.
Yes.
You know, your shoulders would lock. You'd be like, it's like, how can this be a natural thing?
It's
so
not.
painful.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose being natural doesn't mean it's not going to be painful. It's like labour, you know. So then I was home with a newborn and a toddler, which obviously was incredibly challenging. Harry, not a good sleeper. And because he wasn't a good sleeper, we'd get up to him because we didn't want Ollie to wake.
Sure,
You know, so we were
sure.
constantly. So I don't think I slept for maybe the first 4 years of his life. Like, seriously, it was.
There's no deep sleep. There's no REM.
No.
There's no mental health break from it. It's a relentless. And I think we say so much, sure, I'm not getting any sleep. I'm not getting, it's sleep deprivation. She's not sleeping. And it's just so funny and it's a given. And actually the burden of that is on you physically. You know, I'm going through a period of, I'd say literally an hour sleep a night. And it does start to affect your health.
Of course.
And your marriage and your friendships. Did you have a huge, and you can be really honest about this, did you feel you had a huge support circle around you or did you feel quite alone?
I felt really alone. But I think that
Is it 'cause
was
you'd moved
partly
further
my
out?
own
Is it 'cause you'd-
fault.
okay.
Yeah, and also because I didn't want to ask for help. I was like, I have to be able to do this. It's only 2 kids. Like, come on. Like, my eldest sister has 5 children and she had 3 back to back, you know. Yeah, so again, the comparison of like, it's only 2. You can do this. You're at home. You don't even have to go to work. Come on, do this. Like, but again, it was in my head going, I can't do this. I can't cope. So it was very, very intense for a long time. And you like people that have 2 under 2, like, oh, it's just,
It's the Irish twin, isn't it?
It's nuts.
It's so young. It's very quick, yeah.
it's absolutely
And
nuts.
so sorry, is your other child in preschool or big-minded or literally on you all day?
No, he's home with me all day.
So he's
I
on
put-
you and you're trying to breastfeed and your husband's working?
I think, I put him into creche 1 day a week from, I think, actually from 9 months, I put him into creche 1 day a week. So I kept that up when Harry was born. So I had 1 day when he was in creche and that was such a guilt as well because I wasn't making any money, you know. Like,
God, you're hard on yourself.
yeah, I'm really hard on myself.
My God. I mean, I remember having my second baby and Gia was off school for the summer and just being like, what camp can I put her into for 5 days that she can learn an activity or a talent and I can actually get some, because I found it really hard. So the fact that you're saying, oh, it was really hard to put him in for 1 day. God, you're really hard on yourself.
Yeah, it was a lot. So I started going to CBT then because again, I knew I wasn't coping and I was trying to get back. So obviously this is, I think Harry was 6 months. I had been asked a couple of times to do shoots and when I was pregnant, I'd been asked to do like editorial shoots for like Image Magazine, Irish Country, and I'd gone and met with them and said yes. And then I just was like, I actually can't do this. So I had to let them down. So I had another chance. So like a year later, they came back to me and said, well, are you ready now? Kind of thing. And I said yes. And so I had this crazy pressure then that like, okay, this has to work. I have to do this.
Yeah.
So I would say that kind of caused a breakdown. You know, I was very sick. I did 1 shoot and then I kind of physically collapsed and I just couldn't get out of bed. And I think I was in bed for like the guts of 3 weeks. And I was waking up every morning and I was vomiting and I didn't want to be around the boys. I let my anxiety and depression just get really on top of me again.
How's your husband in all of this? So he's trying to keep the show on the road. Is he now off work?
No, because the company he was working for were just so old school and they didn't get it. So he was calling in sick. He was trying to work from home, but they didn't really. He was trying his best. Like when I think about it, I put him under so much pressure as well. So got back on the meds or maybe upped them and started going to CBT. And my therapist said to me, don't take on any more work, first of all. And I remember I felt so guilty about going to therapy because I was like, who's paying? This is €100. Where are we getting this money? You know? but something had to give, so we started talking through, and I was like, I think my husband's gonna leave me, and she was like, okay, but how real is this just you, like, in your head, or has he actually said, I'm going to?
And you've taken to the bed for 3 weeks,
yeah,
which sounds
exactly.
so stunningly sad to me. Like, it's so hard to know that a woman who's these 2 kids has got to take to the bed to cope. And yet the funny thing about that is kids are really robust, and they really are. They get on with it. They are survivors compared to adults. I think definitely
They're so resilient.
They're so resilient. They don't have a clue what's going on. They're fed. They're minded. They might beg you for things, but they're okay. And yet you probably have just a heap of guilt about them. But really, if you aren't okay, I always feel this way. No one in the house is okay. So you did reach out for help, which I think is brilliant, because so many don't.
Yeah. I remember going down to the kitchen one night, and again, I was stick thin, and I couldn't eat. My stomach was in bits, and I hadn't, like, as I said, I hadn't like left the house. I don't think I'd even showered. And I picked up Harry and I started dancing around the kitchen, and Connor just said, oh, look, Mum's back. And I just was like, I didn't want to like burst out crying, because then it's like, oh, here she goes again. But I just remember being like, oh God, this is so hard.
There's a lot of guilt in the mental health. There's a lot of guilt of, like, when even that comment there is seemingly, nothing. It's a kind comment about, yay, she's back, we love her, we need her. But actually it then puts you further back in, well, I was gone. And there's more guilt with that, which is very hard. People don't realise it, but they're like, oh, look, she's back, she looks amazing, she's this, she's bounced, and you don't realise that actually starts another narrative in your mind about how you've been gone.
I failed.
Yeah.
I failed. I was a failure
when
for
you
that
talk
time.
about all this non-eating, and I know it's not a aesthetic thing or a physical thing, it's nothing to do with wanting to be, Heron chic model, but did you find all of this was manifesting in an anorexia at all, or was it nothing to do with eating disorders?
No,
you just
it was
couldn't
nothing
eat.
to do with an eating disorder. I've
So it was
always
more the
found
depressive.
I've always found my anxiety and my mental health starts in my stomach.
Okay.
So even when I was growing up, I'd say to Mum, no, I can't, and my stomach's too sore, and like she would have brought me to people when I was younger, because and it was always a mental health thing, that it's all in my stomach. It's all in my stomach. If I'm nervous, it's in my belly, and I just can't. And honestly, since then I've been fine, and obviously the medication helps as well, but it was just mad how, like, I couldn't even look at food, everything. I was just nauseous the whole time.
Did you stay away from social media? Were you engaged in social?
Couldn't
Were you talking
even
about your mental health
look
struggles?
at social media.
No.
And I just remember thinking, I wish I could talk to people. Like, I felt I had so much to say. I remember Mum Talks kind of started around that time, and I remember thinking, I wish I had the confidence to tell people how hard I'm finding this, because there has to be other people.
Why
feeling
didn't
like
you?
this.
Were you scared of talking about it?
I felt I was a no one. I was irrelevant. I was, a mum living in the country with her a stay-home mum. There was
so your
that whole
conversation
thing.
wasn't important to the
No, exactly.
general dial.
Yeah, exactly. So that had to change.
Did you also fear that it would ruin your career if you were open about mental health, or not? Was that not even a?
No, of course, but it's my story. Like, I
think there's a feeling it's dirty and grimy to talk about something
I'm not okay with that.
Yeah,
I think that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Maybe because I've had it for so long that now that it's out there, I am so relieved.
I think it rounds you. It actually shows that there are so many complex divisions of you. You've got the creativity that I think to just be like, she shows up, she's immaculate, her home life is perfect, is just not the case.
And that's what I never wanted to show. So what happened was, when I went back into styling in 2016.
How many? Okay, so what age are the boys now?
So Harry is still newborn. Ollie's 2.5. The industry had changed so much, and it was all about Instagram.
But why did you go back if you were told by,
So she said, don't take on anything until March, the end of March, and we'll work on it. So I was building up my confidence. I knew, like, that's exactly, my sister was like, why would you go back at all? Like, just stop putting and I knew I had to, because I was losing it being at home with the kids.
Okay.
That could not be my life.
An outlet.
I needed a creative outlet, and I was like, I was fidgety. I was like, no, I need to get back out there. So I actually organised a shoot. Image got me to do another shoot with them. Like Marie Kelly was the fashion director in Image at the time, and she was absolutely amazing. That's what I always say. You just need one person to believe in you.
100%.
Just one person.
If one person believes in you, you're okay for life.
And she was championing me 100%. She loved my work. She loved my portfolio. So I went back and I organised the shoot, and I did it with Barry McCall, who I'd worked with for decades. I did it in his studio, my comfort zone. I used Paula Callan, who was a makeup artist that I'd use. You know, I had all
your team.
The first time that I did it, it was a new photographer, a new hairstylist, and you know, it was all like too far out of my comfort zone. There was a control element in it. It was the most beautiful shoot, so my confidence starts building up. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. And it just got, from a mental health point of view, it got easier. It got harder from the kids getting sick. You know, I remember having a standoff in my hall with my husband going, no, you have to take the day off, and handing the baby, and him handing the baby back to me. No, and I said, but
haven't we all been there?
Like, it was literally, we're both edging towards the front door. I'm like, no, but if I'm not there, the shoot doesn't happen. He's like, I can't miss another day of work. You know, like,
it's like you adore these beings, but the escape is so necessary.
Yeah.
Oh, we have that late at night where it's like, well, this is my schedule for, well, I can't change mine. Well, I ain't changing mine. And then you're at this locked
just
kind of
heads.
And it's awful because these are the most precious, they're the most wonderful things who did not ask to be brought into this world, who, like, I adore the ground my children walk on, and I don't think you should bring in children into the world without huge thought. I think it's a massive responsibility, and I take it very seriously. But my God, the escape days and the necessary running away days, and they're so hard fought, you know?
I know. And I remember just being on a shoot being like, this is like a holiday.
Oh God.
It's actually like a holiday. And now I have to go home and do my real job, you know?
100%.
And the dread of like
100%.
what you're
It's
going
10 times
home
harder
to.
then, yeah.
And that's still, like, we still have the bedtime battles, you know, even with the boys nearly 7 and nearly 9, like, and it's just, we have to divide and conquer with them, and it's it could be up to an hour process of trying to get them to bed.
Bedtime is our shit show, and then we sit on the couch at 9:30. One of us has gone to the gym or cleaned the kitchen, or one of us is, and we're like, I wanted to talk about that holiday thing. Oh my gosh, 100%. And then we go to bed. And I know it's all temporary too. And we were saying this earlier, like coming out of the trenches. But many a phone call, if I do get an opportunity to work from home, it's just children screaming. And I feel like they amp it up when you're on the phone because they're not getting your... and you could be on the most important phone call or trying to get a deal struck, and they're just screaming.
Yeah, it is. It's relentless. But so I obviously, you know, I think it's easy to hear that I did totally lose myself, and the styling side of it, like, I loved, but I felt I needed to work on myself as well. So I decided to start a personal project on Instagram, because I figured, like, okay, I lost myself mentally. I felt I lost myself physically. I wasn't making any effort with my clothes and stuff, and I thought, Jesus, if I am feeling like this and I work in the fashion industry, how many hundreds, if not thousands, of women feel the same? So that's why I started doing Instagram try-ons, because I also wanted to get my personality across. Like, a lot of my work is, you know, was so creative for magazines and stuff, but like, it's not really saying anything about me, you know. No,
obviously there was no connection to you.
Exactly.
You're there styling a shoot, but there isn't that open. 100%.
Yeah,
I would agree. You see a name of a stylist and you don't know them.
Of course, it's just a name. So I thought, okay, I'll start doing this. And so I set a personal project, and I started then putting it up on Instagram as a try on. And then as it went on, I started doing try on Tuesdays. I started that hashtag, and I started getting a good following then. You know, I got maybe a few big accounts like YStyle or whatever sharing it. So then I got, you know, a bunch more followers, whatever. And soon I was getting like thousands of views every Tuesday. Like, I would see the increase, you know, just because I was being consistent about it. And then, you know, brands would reach out to me and ask me to do it for, you know, I started getting kind of paid gigs. And then COVID hit. So my job as a stylist was gone totally.
Okay. So you're starting to find your feet. The 2 boys are coping, because children cope and they get through life. You've started this great thing, this like entrepreneurial business online, where it's like, you know, you're actually reaching out, and then it's bam, you know, it's just back to the abyss. How'd you find that?
I felt like this was an opportunity for me to like experiment more with the social media side of things. I felt, okay, the styling is gone. I just started hosting events for Kildare Village and doing showcases.
gosh,
You know, I'd
okay.
started getting all of this really good work, and like hosting the podcast and everything. It was getting very rounded. You know, I had the social media side, I had the print side, I had the event side, and I just thought, okay, you can either just give up or keep going. And I was really getting something out of Instagram. You know, it wasn't a one-way thing. Like, I'd built up a community and they were giving me confidence. Like, I would be a nervous wreck putting up some of my try-ons, and then I'd start getting comments and being like, oh, I love that. And straight away, and I know there is that kind of dopamine thing, but
The validation.
yeah, but it was more than that. It was a community, you know?
But
and
that's
it was
your skill. I mean, this isn't just this kind of superficial, she's into clothes. You are a style.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually what you honed your expertise on. You've huge experience in the industry. You know what does and doesn't work for particular body shapes, looks, types, height, careers. You are an expert at it. And I mean, that is true. Like, this isn't just for the crack. Like, I'm going to show
Exactly.
off my newest Gucci. Like,
Exactly.
and so because of that, you get fulfillment that is very different to parenting, because the fulfillment comes much later. So it must have been very good for your mental health.
Yeah, it was, I think, yeah, it was the game changer, because then I felt more confident to talk more about myself personally, aside from fashion, and about my mental health and struggles. And then I started doing, I did a little series on belonging and the sense of belonging, which I loved. I did a little series called the Chrysalis Collective, which, you know, I did lives with people. You know, I'm really interested in people, and I'm really interested in connecting with people. And it's not just about fashion, but people were coming for fashion.
And tell us about the business now, which is so interesting to me. What you do now is quite out of the ordinary, I think.
Oh, well, great. Yeah, I that's what I want.
Yeah.
So I was doing the try-ons, and I was getting brands coming to me, and they were, you know, paying and stuff, and it, you know, it was going well, and I could have kept ticking away, but I kind of thought, Jesus, do I want to be kind of mid-40s still doing try-ons for all these, you know? I was like, well, you know, why don't I take ownership of this? Why don't I stock the clothes that I'm trying on? Right. So I had dabbled in the idea. I don't know about you, but like, about 5 months after I had my second, I got this kind of rush of energy, you know, and I'm like, what am I doing? What, you know, where am I going with this? And I had dabbled with the idea of opening a boutique, but then reality hit and we got down to childcare costs, and it was like, no, this makes absolutely no sense. So it had always been in the back of my mind, well, since 2016. So I was like, okay, I can't, like, the bricks and mortar side, probably not a great idea for now because the kids are still so young. But there is something there digitally. There is a need. Women love what I do. They love when I put outfits together. They love being told what to wear, instructional, takeaways, all that kind of stuff. So how can I marry all of this? So I set up Styled By in September 2021, which is a multi-brand online women's wear boutique, but it's also a personal shopping service. You can come and have one-to-one styling sessions with me. Wow. And then the videos, I try to show how to wear.
Wow.
There's a lot of different elements to it. I also do events and pop-ups.
Wow.
You know, I'm trying
How's
to...
it going?
It's going really well. It's going really well. I do like walk-in weekends where people can just come if they don't want to make an appointment with me in particular.
Do you love it?
I love it. I love the day-to-day of it. It is so fulfilling. It's very stressful, I'm not going to lie. It's so much more than I had
maybe
thought.
That's always going to be the career choice you make, a very busy, stressy. Maybe that is just
oh my
the
God,
life
you've just summed me up.
Yeah.
It's like,
maybe you're driven.
Why don't I just go
Yeah.
for the easy path? Nope, not for me.
How's your head?
Great. I'm in a great space
Wow.
mentally. Yeah.
Is it because of the age of your children, or because you've gotten so much help?
I think... No, it's interesting. I found the first year really stressful, and I was at breaking point a couple of times, but I've great support now. My sister came in, she's working with me. She's doing all kind of the order fulfillment and like the stock management. I have childcare.
Do you think
Which
about
I
having
haven't
more
had.
kids? Do you ever?
No way.
That's such a private, personal question, but I'm always like,
oh
do you
no,
think
that ship has sailed. And I think that has helped me mentally as well.
you've closed that door?
I mean, I think part of me finding having the second so stressful was because I was like, oh my God, I have to do this again. Oh my God, how am I ever going to have a third? Oh my God, I can't do this. I can't do this. Now I'm like, that has been taken away. That's not even an option. And I am so happy with my kids. They are at the best ages. Like, okay, they run us ragged, but they are brilliant. They are so much fun. They like.
Did you ever think you'd get to that point where you're like, I'm enjoying every aspect of parenting?
No, and I'm not enjoying every aspect.
Oh, sure. But that it's actually a thrill. It's not just a dread.
No, I got so lost in the humdrum of the minutes, of the hours, of the days that I could not see the woods for the trees. And I remember my mum saying, this too shall pass, this too shall pass. I had a couple of mantras to get me through. The trenches was the first one. Just, try and go easy on yourself for the first, whatever people say about 1 year, I say 5 years.
Agreed.
Go easy on yourself. My other one is like a Chinese proverb, and I'm gonna misquote this, but it's like, keep moving. As long as you're not standing still, you're progressing. So don't worry about moving slowly. Worry about standing still.
A good friend of mine, Evie, actually, she's a great friend, but I remember her saying to me once, you're so keen on getting back to who you were. Try and remember that this is temporary and go back in to whatever you were doing previously and not worry so much about being 100%, and that actually it's psychologically better for you, because women just need those 5 years to actually just survive.
I've dropped the perfectionism.
Yeah.
That was a massive thing for me. That was holding me back so much, and maybe that's why I feel I can talk about my mental health and I can be open and I can be vulnerable, because perfection is a myth.
It is a myth. I could talk to you for hours. Hopefully you'll see bits of social snippets. Sarah is very naturally, I saw her outside, very naturally stylish, which is super important for your job. But it is because you're an eye-catching person. People will look to you, and that's exactly kind of what you're now trying to recreate, I guess, and help your clients with. But you're just really beautiful and naturally stylish and at ease in yourself. So you look fantastic. I think your business idea is brilliant. But a final question, and one that is on my mind a lot at the moment when I talk to other women, how's your marriage and how do you make that cool? Because it's hard.
It is hard, and especially because we were on autopilot for so long. We celebrated 10 years.
Wow, congratulations.
On New Year's Eve.
Congratulations.
I was sick in bed because once I stopped for Christmas, it was like game over. We had a gorgeous 3 days in Morocco in October, and we saw each other again. It was really lovely to
you find
be
each
away.
other again.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had fun and we laughed and we were just chill. We didn't have to talk to each other the whole time. We were just there. Yeah, the marriage part is so hard, and especially when you've literally just been getting through it for so long. It's like, oh, hi you. I remember just saying to my husband, I just grab him by the arm and be like, I love you. Let's just do this. It's just, we are an incredible team. We really are. He
sounds very
so
special.
amazing. He's absolutely amazing. And he does so much. Like, he is the one washing up. He's the one dropping the kids. Like, we've found this lovely rhythm now because he can work remotely. I think that is also a game changer. If I had him there, I don't think I would have cracked, Yeah. He's wonderful.
She's shown us there's light at the end of a pretty tricky tunnel, and I think it's really important to know that for anyone listening now who's really in that very dark place. Sarah Rickard, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me, Rebecca.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Little Birdie Told Me, and if you did, it would be wonderful if you could subscribe to the podcast.